Yeah, I'll call a special board meeting to order.
Tyler's not coming.
Would you call the roll, please?
Okay, President Weatherston,
Here.
Trustee Martin,
He's here.
Tru- Trustee Stillman,
He's here.
Trustee McManus, Trustee Wishow, and Trustee Pierce. And not yet? Okay.
Oh, Mike's not here? Okay, before we start, we are recording the meeting, so you must be recognized by the chair so I can turn your microphone on before you speak. Is that clear enough? Understood? I don't know. Okay? So this is the first time we're gonna record a meeting, so this is a good tryout. I'll turn it over to Wayne. Oh, I'm sorry, Chief.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. So we're here to talk about the 2025 budget, and so I will just give a brief overview. So you should have in front of you and have had a chance to review the binder that contains the budget. So what we're going to discuss here tonight is essentially the village administrator's budget as presented in the binder. There are going to be some changes of note, and so Wayne will cover those as we get to those specific areas. But for all practical purposes, it's substantially what you see in front of you. The process that we use is exactly the same as we've done in years past. And so for the most part, what you're going to see is essentially just refresh numbers of what you have seen in prior years. If you turn to page 1, I'm not going to go over the summary in detail. I did go over it somewhat when it was provided 2 weeks ago, and hopefully you've had a chance to review it. So it starts off with some of the significant changes and challenges, and so those are listed. One of those will be in a closed session item tomorrow where we'll discuss it in more detail, but the rest of it is pretty much as explained. And then you get to the general comments. Again, I'll point out that the important number for us was net new construction, which was at 1.554 this year, which is lower than last year. So that kind of limited our flexibility, but we were able to do some different things. One of which is requesting to move some of the capital items from police and fire to this year's budget, which Wayne will talk about. Other than that, I'm going to turn it over to Wayne to work his way through the budget. So we'll do it much like we did last year. Well, Wayne is going to take the primary and work through all of the different sections of the budget. If you have questions, you certainly should stop us, and Wayne will do his best to explain it from a budgeting perspective. If there are more program or policy or questions for the specific department heads, then we'll turn it back over to the department heads to answer any specific questions. But if there is nothing before we get there, I will turn it over to Wayne. Are there any questions before we start? Okay, and I'll turn it over to Wayne.
Okay, thank you. So we'll start right away with the tax levy allocation. You can see bottom line, the levy increase is $537,000. We were able to cover that with the 1.5% increase in net new construction. That's about 240,000 of the 500,000, 537,000. The rest of it is primarily because our capital projects funding requests were down, so we were able to utilize some of that in the general fund this time. And then our debt service increase, which is outside the levy limit, that actually is an increase of $335,000, primarily from the bonding recently for the new building. The good news is this 19.946 million is a decrease in the mill rate for next year. Currently this year, the mill rate's $5.82 per thousand. It's going to drop to 5.51 estimated for next year, which is a savings of 31 cents, or for a $300,000 house, you're a savings of $93 on the village portion of their tax bill. Can't speak to the other portions. If you want to flip the page to the net levy limit, you see where the village falls in the scope of Racine County. We're a little bit below the total of Racine County, 0.03%. But once again, we're still relatively up in the top portion of the villages for their net new construction for this past year. Moving on to the general budget summary. So that's the overall general fund summary. Revenues are increasing by 922,000. Total expenditures in the general fund increasing by that 922,000. We'll go through with each department in much more detail in the following pages. Next section of the revenues. Yep. Okay, so now we're moving to page 4. Sorry. Property taxes revenues for the general fund are increasing 447,000 in this budget. There's some offsetting decreases for the state shared revenue, which I was anticipating a larger decrease than what we actually, when we got confirmation last week of state shared revenues. So our, we'll have an adjustment that'll be done that we'll talk about at the end of the budget on some of, for this shared revenue.
Sorry, Mr. Shaw, did you want to be recognized?
Sorry about
I
that.
think I got you. Go ahead.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay, maybe you can clear something up, Wayne. State shared revenue, we're showing a decrease of 203,000. But your note on page, page 2, said we were anticipating an increase of 516,000. We had that last year and you're expecting that to continue. So what am I missing here?
So I was anticipating the decrease related to busting through the expenditure restraint last year with the referendum to impact us more than it is. So actually, the numbers actually came back from the state that we got confirmation, and our decrease is only about $50,000. So we'll have 155,000 more in revenue that we'll talk about later.
I'm still not following it. If we go back to page 2.
2 of the memo.
Yeah, the 1, 2, 3, fourth paragraph, second sentence, third sentence. 2024 increase in shared revenue amounted to 516,968 last year. And then it says, we anticipate this increase carrying forward into 2025 budget and beyond.
Right. So in general, it did, but a portion of the state shared revenue, that's the related to the police and fire, the public safety portion.
Okay,
And I was expecting a larger decrease in the expenditure restraint payments because of having to exceed our expenditure restraint last year in the
Okay.
budget.
all right. So the 2003 decrease is not, or $200,003, 203,786 is not a typo.
No, it is
All right.
correct. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Looking at some of the other revenues, building permits increasing $30,000. The culvert fees, electrical fees increasing. One thing that we did eliminate was this neighborhood planning surcharge. That's $60,000 that was budgeted previously. That's actually built into the building permits line item. So that's just clearing that up. Muni court fines are increasing $55,000 thanks to the efforts of our police department. Fire inspection fees increasing $15,000, and interest income was a big jump of $450,000. If you remember, I brought forth a budget mod earlier this year with adding $1.1 million in interest income for 2024. So this is bringing, even though interest rates will be falling soon, this will bring it more towards a realistic number. Any other revenue questions?
Got you, Nance.
Teaching me, which is okay. When I look at the neighborhood planning surcharge, you said that's being built into the,
It's part of the building permits, the revenue for building permits.
okay.
And Tony can also
Yes, Tony?
Thank you. So when we did the revising of the building permit fees
Uh-huh.
back in December of '23, what we ended up doing is we looked at the prices that we were charging.
Mhm.
For most of our smaller permits, we were charging $64.41. Instead of dealing with the 41 cents, we decided let's round it to 65. And because the neighborhood planning surcharge was a percentage, we decided, okay, we're just going to remove the percentage out of the equation, round it up to 65, and then we did that all the way through all of the
Process.
permits processes all the way through. So we're still collecting that amount. It's just not being collected in as neighborhood planning surcharge any longer.
Got it.
Any other revenue questions? Fran?
Oops, Tom? I have a question related to that, I think, because didn't the neighborhood surcharge go into something special for the parks, for that fund? And so is that still being allocated separately?
I was gonna say the Parks Fund is a dedicated $1,000 fee attached to all new buildings.
Yeah,
Okay.
the Parks Fund is a separate fund altogether.
Okay, that's not the
That
neighborhood,
is,
okay,
no.
That's park
Okay.
impact fee typically called
okay,
out.
thanks.
Okay, Wayne.
Okay. Page 6, Village Board. We have a slight increase. You'll see the IT maintenance and subscription line in all the departments coming up. What that is that we're just allocating the Office 365 expenses across each individual department rather than keeping it in one professional bin. Also, the more and more of the departments have their own kind of IT maintenance and subscription items that we're running into. So I wanted to add that line into all the departments. Otherwise, the village board is pretty much staying the same. It's not salaries, no.
Workers' compensation line?
Yes, there's a slight decrease.
Yeah, who gets it?
Anybody, all
We're not-
employees, it's allocated across all employees.
So we're
So-
technically covered.
Yes, if you cut your finger, you could,
Well, thank you. I'll think about
you are
that.
subject to workers' comp.
Ours too, I mean, if someone's driving to a meeting, just out of curiosity.
No, that would be a property insurance. And if you're driving your personal vehicle, it's a personal expense.
It's no different than if you're driving to work, you're generally not covered until you get to work, and once you begin your workday, then you'd be covered.
No.
That much about workers' comp, that if you're doing on-the-job travel, it's covered typically. It's just a fine point.
Yeah, I guess if you were here at a meeting and you were arguably going to another meeting,
Yeah,
you might be able to make a case for it then, as long as there was no break in your, I guess, in your workday or your employment.
Yeah, if an employee is driving their personal vehicle from the village, if they report to the village hall and then they go to another job site in their personal vehicle, their personal auto insurance covers a loss, not the village.
I don't, well, we can talk about that later. Maybe it's changed.
Okay. Moving to the village clerk, page 7. So the village clerk has an additional position this year in the 2024 budget. We are just basically transferring the front desk administrative assistant from finance to the village clerk, since Diane works closely with Norgie and Jennifer. And then, so you have corresponding increases in salary, health insurance, all the employee benefits, and then some very minor decreases in operating expenses. Moving on to village clerk elections. Elections budget is decreasing. We're going from 5 elections this year to hopefully 2, knock on wood. So the We are proposing that we increase the salaries for the poll workers. They have remained at $10 an hour or $10 a day. Is it $10 an hour for a number of years? Most of the villages are paying 12 and a half to 15. So we are looking to move their wages up to $12.50 for next year and then up to 15 for the following year.
Next year? No. Just the two.
There's a possibility of a third election if the county clerk wins the executive position. Yeah.
If
And moving on to the administration department. So this is always has been the administrator and then a half-time position for the HR manager. That position was allocated between administration and municipal court. I'm sure that everyone has heard that Tyler is leaving us. So Todd is, and the chief and I have had some conversations on Friday, and which will be ongoing as far as how to restructure that position moving forward. And we'll bring that to you as part of the October 8th budget. As far as the actual increases in the administrative area, it basically was just due to the new village administrator taking healthcare. Either Kathy or Tyler had healthcare before through the village. That's the biggest portion of the increase, as well as salaries. Any questions with that department? Could you do me a favor?
Yes, ma'am.
As I understand it, the health insurance, though, in all of these budgets, in every section is subject to change.
Correct, yes.
Do we have a possible range even
Yes,
of?
we do. We
Okay.
have relatively firm numbers right now.
Okay,
So in the budget, health insurance is budgeted with a 10% increase. We've had a really good loss year, and we were able to actually get someone else to quote us. Our broker was able to find it. I did have a quarter-time position that I'm giving up in the 2025 budget to kind of offset a portion of these costs for adding a full-time position. The other positions that were requested that we did not include is that of the assistant fire chief, an IT technician level 2, as well as the police support services, a reclassification and the addition of a part-time position within the police support services. And if you have questions on those positions, we can discuss those when we get to the various departments. Moving on to the finance department on page 13, you can see the addition of a staff accountant that's being requested. Oh, it should say 2025, not 2024, in that little chart in the middle. As far as the actual expenditures, it's not showing much of an increase in salaries. That's because we're transferring the one position to the village clerk also. So net of transferring the position out and then adding a full-time position and also eliminating a quarter-time position is a $40,000 increase in the department. Small increases and decrease in overall $500 increase in expenditures. Any questions there? Moving on to the police department on page 15. Staffing remains the same as last year. Fortunately, we haven't been able to fill all 44 positions throughout the year, but what's that?
for police? So we're authorized for 44. I think we are at 39 currently with a few other departures pending, but we're staffed at 39 currently.
Question about that, because I think in one of the first 2 pages, I think it may be on page 3, as I understand it, part of shared revenue has to be dedicated to safety personnel. Does that offset the referendum, or is that on top of the referendum, extra dollars?
That was on top of the referendum dollars.
So it doesn't really, the shared revenue in that respect doesn't save us anything at all. If we hadn't had the referendum, it would have, but it doesn't as it stands.
Well, the shared revenue, we have to provide, every year, certify a maintenance of effort in the department that we do not decrease funding for the department. That's the requirement.
Okay, so it's not that there are actual dollars that have to be spent over and above what is allocated from the referendum? Is that correct?
So it's my understanding that when we passed the referendum, that kind of reset our budgets. And so that established kind of a floor for both police and fire. And so now going forward, there is a maintenance of effort certification that we have to go through each year in July. And so there's, I think, 3 different metrics that you can use to certify that you've essentially maintained your efforts as it relates to public safety. And so one of this is just comparing budget year to year. And as long as you show there hasn't been a decrease, then you've maintained that effort. There are 2 other ways that you can also meet the maintenance of effort, although I'm less clear on those. Jeff, I'm not sure if you know those off the top of your head.
No, when I started looking into it, it was easier just to, staffing levels were keeping, the staffing levels as budgeted were keeping the same, and that was all we had to do is certify.
And as long as you certify and maintain that effort, then you won't see a decrease in your shared revenue. If you are unable to make that maintenance of effort, then you will in fact be penalized. And so I believe then you may see a reduction in shared revenue as a penalty for not maintaining the effort.
Okay, so what's the effect of having 39 instead of 44 positions filled in that respect?
Well, it really has to do with your budgeted amount.
Okay.
And so we have, as a village, are
Okay.
still budgeting the correct amount. It's just because of recruitment and retention, we're unable to get there. But as long as fire maintains their staffing level, the allocation, and we maintain our allocation, we should not have an issue with the maintenance of effort. Now, the problem is if the village said, well, you only staffed 39, so we're only going to fund you with 40, you would have shaved 4 positions. We would not meet the maintenance of effort if that were to occur. And that's what they're trying to guard against.
Right, and then does it reduce it dollar for dollar, or what happens?
I don't know what the formula is. I don't have that off the top of my head.
And that's part of the reason why we've started to allocate costs to each department too, because that shows how much costs for police and fire that is fully encompassing, because workers' comp never used to be allocated to the departments. You know, IT costs are not allocated to departments, things like that. Correct. Yes. You'll see a substantial increase in both police and fire in the salaries area personnel costs due to the contracts being settled. The other departments, the salary increase that's currently budgeted is 3.5%, which matches the salaries in the police and fire contracts. Fire is not settled yet. No, police is not settled yet. Sorry, fire is settled.
I have another question. Because it shows a 39.1% in overtime. So why is that? Since we added substantially more officers, why are we budgeting for such a large amount of overtime?
Because we don't have those positions filled. And so we know that we're entering 2025, well, currently 5 short. And so those individuals have to be hired and then trained. And so it will be at least until August or September before they even are solo patrol, meaning they actually contribute to the shift. So we know that even if we can hire all of them, they won't count for 9 months. So we still have to backfill some of those positions with people. So essentially, we'll do what we did this year, is our overtime is higher than allotted, but it's more than offset by the salary decrease, the excess salary that we have for not paying. And so we're likely to run into a similar scenario next year. There also are some different things that we're doing with regard to, so that amount has to increase by the amount of the raises times time and a half. So there's just a general
it.
increase. And then there's a contractual thing that we're changing as well. And so that is likely to add an amount to the overtime. And so we suspect that that's probably going to add $15,000 to $30,000. But that's a known amount based on a change in process that will come as a part of the contract. That's why you're seeing the increase.
Okay, I'm still a little bit mystified by it, I guess, because before we added those additional officers, we had overtime based on the staff that we had then. So it still seems odd to me that we have a almost 40% increase in overtime because we haven't filled positions that we didn't even have before.
So we did fill some of the positions. So we were up to, at one point, we had, so when I say we have 39 people hired, that's a number of people hired. But we have 6 people that are in training. So that takes us down to 33. And then we have, for most of the year, we had some FMLA. And so we had a functional number that was less than we've even been in years prior to the referendum. So we were at 36 going into the referendum. We were at 35 the year before that and 34 the year before that. We are functioning with a number that's probably closer to 32 or 33. Okay. And so when I say we're short 5, that's because we're 5 openings. But functionally, we are short like 13 people that are operational, if that makes sense. And so we are probably working with a number that we haven't seen since 2021. And so we do have holes in our budget.
So the contract we're working on right now expired when?
That expired at the end of 2022. So the current contract would be for 23, 4, and 5.
Oh, it is for 3 years?
Correct.
Okay. And the fire is just for 1 year now? Isn't that how we did it?
No, I believe it's 2-year contracts through 2025.
I thought we changed it because we wanted to be just like Mount Pleasant.
I don't think that ended up,
It didn't, I don't know if it
I
happened or
don't
not.
know if it ended up happening. I'll verify right now.
Okay. I'm just curious how we were doing with the contracts. Because that always throws a monkey wrench in things.
The police expense, the operating expenses, you'll see that there's an increase for the IT maintenance and subscriptions as for the Office 365. Also, an increase for contracted services. That's just a transfer in from the professional department into the police department just to gauge a little bit of the time that's spent exclusively working on the squads, which they take up a ton of time of our contracted IT work. So, yes. Allocated at 4 hours a week.
Let's go back to account 64,340, digital evidence management. Refresh my memory what that is, because I looked in last year's notes and I couldn't find anything. It's other than, had something to do with body cams, but that's all.
Correct. So it's 0 in 2025 because of signing the agreement with Axum this year to for the cloud storage. So this year we're switching. We passed the resolution last meeting to bring in the Axon equipment, and so that first year is included in that.
Okay.
So
All right.
that's for the ongoing storage costs.
Okay, so we'll get hit with this next year.
It get hit with a different amount, correct. So this is for our current body worn camera that will discontinue, and it'll be replaced at some point with the new Axon. But right now it's covered as a capital item, so it doesn't hit the operational budget for 2025, but it will hit again in 2026.
All right, thank you.
Also, if I could interrupt, it was a 3-year contract that was settled early this year. It carried the years 23, 24, 25, so the contract is through 2025.
Any other police budget questions? Or we'll go into police support services. That contract is showing a decrease due to the continuing reduction in the community dispatch service contract with the county. The memo called out what year of the term that we're in right now. I don't remember off the top of my head. Next department is municipal court. Once again, as I mentioned before, with Tyler leaving us, this budget will need some adjustments. More than likely, his salary will come out, and it will probably be a contracted service then in 2025. Other than that, there's very small adjustments, just salary increases at the budgeted increase and small increase in health care, health insurance.
Oh, I bumped it. Sorry about that. Let him guide us on what his thoughts for HR and the municipal court are. So it'll give him a month or two to get used to us and see if he has any good ideas. Okay. Thank you, Wayne.
Yep. Moving on to the fire department, page 22. And fire department has a substantial increase in personnel costs related to the contract being settled. Also in healthcare, that's primarily due to the mix of people and what the insurance they're taking. As far as other operating expenses, once again, the community dispatch, the fire portion of the contract increasing by almost $30,000. That includes the Caledonia contract as well as, since we serve North Bay and Wind Point, those contracts also. Then a few small increases and decreases. The maintenance, IT maintenance and subscriptions, almost $7,000. Total budgeted increase of $476,000.
I'm sorry. Yes, Nancy.
Is this where you can speak to the position you're asking for, how this is going to fit in to these numbers?
So the assistant chief position is not being recommended to be included in the budget. So it is not in the budget currently.
So this would not be till 2026?
We just wanted to give you the information of positions that were requested to be included in the budget, whether the interim administrator and I decided to put them into the budget or not.
So this one is not in the budget?
Correct.
Just to give a little bit of background. So at various points in time, there are all sorts of needs that department heads have brought forth. And so sometimes those things never make it to the board and the needs sit within each department. So we wanted to make sure that you at least had the information so that even if it's not something that we're able to do this year, that it's something that you have the ability, that you're aware of, and so that if you see it again in maybe a subsequent year, you know that this has been a pending or an ongoing issue. So when Wayne and I talked, we thought it was good that you know which position we recommend, but also which ones we may not recommend, but you're at least aware that they exist.
Yeah.
And so there are, the memo that you have only has one recommendation that was actually built into this budget, that is the staff accountant. The rest of them are not built in, but you at least are aware that the request and the need may be there.
I missed that.
Dale?
Jeff, could you tell us how many you have actively on roll right now?
I believe my staffing currently sits at 40, which is 8 positions short. I
Okay.
have currently 8 people undergoing background checks, so I don't know what that will equate to for a net gain of personnel by the end of the year, but we shall see.
So could this assistant chief that you're referring to, is that somebody that we could slot into this 50 number
It could, but it would be at the expense of
of a firefighter?
a firefighter's position right now. My intention was to bring this position to the board for consideration based on the fact, for multiple reasons. One is I am the only 40-hour a week person that works for the fire department. So that position, if I'm sick as I was last week, those responsibilities go unfilled until I'm back at work. It also creates, there's no division, ability to do a division of labor because of the current shift schedule of my supporting staff. The battalion chiefs work a 24/48 firefighter schedule. If they're off on vacation, I might not see some of those battalion chiefs for weeks on end just because of the way their schedule rotates. So most fire departments operate with an assistant chief's position. The Caledonia Fire Department operated with an assistant chief's position up until 2008, when the current assistant chief was promoted to fire chief, and it was never filled after that. The second reason I thought it was a valuable position for the fire department was in succession planning. It would provide someone to perform the role of interim fire chief upon my retirement, which that's no secret is something that is looming on the horizon. It also provides some continuity of the administration of the department if anything were to happen.
So in our best interest, we should be really considering an assistant to fill one of these vacancies at the time being.
It would be something that should be considered, yes.
Okay, we just have to agree on the board during the budget time, but, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question related to that. If we trade, in effect, an assistant chief for a firefighter, then what does that do to the shared revenue certification business?
I don't believe it would necessarily impact that because it is a maintenance of effort is our staffing levels have maintained. Everyone on the fire department is considered a firefighter's position, including myself.
Okay, I didn't know if there was a distinction between you were considered administrative maybe or something, and they weren't all the same. Okay, I have another question, and that is, somewhere do we show revenue from Wind Point and North Bay for taking care of their fire and police services?
Do we have that on here?
Is it in here somewhere?
So the revenues would be, there is a municipal payments revenue line. Go back to
Page 3.
page 4. 100-00-43610 for $307,050. A portion of that is the actual contract. Wind Point is $273,000. North Bay is $33,700 of that.
Okay.
Wind Point is they pay us $273,231, and North Bay pays us $33,715.
Also, I'd like to include in that, though, we do collect any ambulance revenues or fees associated with providing that service to both municipalities, as well as the 2% dues that those municipalities receive.
And that contract is coming up again in the next couple of years, isn't it?
It is through 2025.
Mr. Wishaw.
I got a question, kind of unrelated to what we're talking about here, but what has been our collection rate on our rescue squad fees that we're charging? It used to
It
be,
used to be around 60%.
yeah, I was going to say 60%.
We're kind of at a crossroads right now. If you guys remember, we switched to ambulance billing companies earlier this year after our previous ambulance company, the owner of that company, passed away unexpectedly. We are still working through what the collection rates look like because of the transition, and right now it's, I think Wayne can speak a little more clear to it, but
Yeah, it's very slow right now. So they're still getting their feet on the ground running.
Okay.
It's probably adding at least an additional 45 days to collection, it seems.
I would anticipate the collection rates being similar to the previous
Okay.
provider,
All right,
but we don't know
Thank you.
for sure.
Any other fire department related questions? And moving on to the building department, page 25.
Second. I got a question for Jeff. Have we done any more discussion about remodeling the firehouse at Nicholson?
I believe there is an encumbrance from the previous capital budget from last year. And we are still, the balance of what those costs would be hangs with the sale of the current Station 12.
And how's Station 12 coming?
We have an accepted offer.
We do have it in one now?
We have an offer.
Okay. I had heard of that, but I didn't know if it's an accepted offer.
It's, we replied to them last week and said yes, so.
Then it's accepted.
What dollar amount?
Do you remember it was 625, is that right? 630.
So the goal would have been, so there's some money left from capital that was set aside last year, and then we would also use the funds from the sale of Station 12, and then look at where that puts us and try and get a more exact number as to what the fire department's needs are, and then try and marry those two up in terms of how much we have versus how much they need, and see where that leaves us. And then we'd have to look at what our options are. Certainly if the dollar amount is there, if the expense is less than what we have, we're good. If the expense is more than what we have, then we have to decide if we're going to do that, and if so, how we're going to pay that difference. And so that is, I've had some precursor conversations with Todd about that, so he's aware that that is that's a project of ours that will need some work, but we're probably going to need more definite numbers. And now that we know more closely where we're going to be, we can get those numbers.
Yes, Fran.
This is a little bit of a diversion, but to me, the sale of the firehouse, unless it was for the asking price, should have been brought to the board, because
Well,
it must be
it
that
will.
you've decided to,
It will.
well, but you've already told them that it's a yes. That's a legal issue. If the board were to say no now,
The board still has the final say.
yes, but that would leave us in an ambiguous legal position. So I'm just saying, I think that should have come to the board first.
Dale.
Yes, I got a question.
No, I don't know if your
No,
question ever got really
no,
answered.
well, kind of, but it didn't. And does that involve the demo of the police department at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
So step one would be to demo the PD and minimally repair the side of the building that would now be exposed.
Mhm.
And then by extension would then be to move into the fire department and begin to look at some sort of remodel. But the extent of that remodel is highly dependent upon the funding that's available and subject to any additional funding that the board would approve if and when we get to that point.
But we did get some temporary plans or potential plans from FGM at one time, didn't we? What they could do for us?
I believe it was just a cursory examination of what it might cost.
Okay.
I don't have those figures.
Well, every day they change.
Every day they change, and I don't know that those could even be accurate today.
Probably not. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, back to the building department budget. The very small increase in building department, staffing remains the same. Just really the only increase other than health insurance, the mix of the staff taking the health insurance and then work supplies. No, the maintenance is under the maintenance and facility department. That's coming up still. No. If you look at the page 26, the staffing is listed. There's senior building inspector, the building inspector, electrical, plumbing inspectors, and a half-time administrative assistant. Next up to page 28, the Public Works Department. The increases here are related to personnel, health care, and salaries primarily. Most everything else is either staying the same or decreasing a little bit. Total operating costs are down $2,700. Very small decrease. No questions. Moving on to the engineering department. Increasing here of primarily in the salaries in healthcare area. That had to do with the one person switching from single insurance to limited family, or no, from limited family to family insurance. Someone had one. Then very small increases in operating expenses.
We added, what did I look at, 137,000? Is that an additional person? And in 2023, 12/31 is 122,000. And in estimated 12/31, 2024, we have 259,999.
Right.
What's,
In 2024, we added an additional engineering technician. We now have 2.
okay,
Essentially, you moved the technician from the utility district
Right.
to the engineering department.
okay.
Okay, page 32 and 33 are maintenance and facilities. That is the custodial supplies. Not much increase in personnel. Contracted services are increasing quite a bit due to some of the maintenance contracts for the new public safety building. The HVAC contract is estimated at, I believe, $24,000 for that building. Also some additional costs for repairs and maintenance, communication services, and the equipment repairs and maintenance.
Dale?
We pay someone to cut the grass here around the grounds, they were correct?
It's a contracted service.
Okay, yeah, they're contracted. Do we have anybody that's supposed to take care of all the landscaping that we've put in all over now that they're full of weeds?
Yes.
Usually when I park out here in the parking lot, where my car's parked, I usually pull weeds. I don't know if that's in my job description or not, but I typically do that.
We get paid a lot of money to do that.
But it looks pretty dismal.
We'll get that taken care of.
Thank you.
But give him a nickel.
What'd you say?
We'll give you a nickel each. So.
And truth be told, our former village administrator did most of the weeding. So I don't know if our new administrator is going to be into weeding or not. Okay. Yes, she did.
At least have a decent area here.
Yes.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on, community development, page 34 to 36 with a blank page for some reason.
Oh, 35 is blank.
Yes, I don't know why, but here in this department, there's a healthcare decrease because we had budgeted for family insurance, and our planning and zoning administrator actually took single this year. So there's a big decrease there. Just some other relatively minor changes. Legal fees we decreased down to a more reflective estimate of what we presume for B 2025.
Because I assume you're planning to replace Todd, but there'll be a gap.
Yeah, the job is posted, and if fingers crossed, we might have them ready right at the first of the year, so we won't have a huge salary savings. We'll have salary savings in '24, but not necessarily in '25.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on to the Caledonia Parks Department. This department has the one full-time staff as well as some part-time seasonal staff and sports staff. Very minimal change to this budget, overall decrease of $10,000. That was due to a health insurance change from limited family to single.
Wayne, I have a question about the salaries in parks. If the employees in there really work for the Public Works Department, why are they not in Public Works?
We've just classified them in parks because it was a special revenue fund that we moved back to the general fund. In previous years, they had it as a special revenue fund because those funds are outside the levy limits back when we had the joint parks. And so expenses were a lot higher. Now that we just have our parks, it got moved back into the general fund. And this way, it just allows us to better capture the costs associated with the parks currently. If we put it in highway, it gets jumbled up in road repairs and maintenance and salt, and you lose focus on the small part of the parks.
There's also the bargaining union wage too that you'd have to honor if they're, which would be a higher wage
Yeah.
scale in this situation
Thank you.
for those people.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, then the last department in the general fund is the professional department. This is a lot of the contractual relationships, a lot of the items that are across the entire village. The kind of the big items here, biggest thing that'll stick out is the revenue sharing line item. It's an increase of $123,000. That's our portion of the city of Racine's wastewater agreement, and our portion. So as villages increase their levy limits like we did last year through the referendum, a underlying fact is it seems like the city of Racine says, well, then you can afford to pay us more. So we're going to charge you more. So that's why we had this enormous increase.
Do anybody, hold on, Fran, hold on, Fran.
Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Is that in the agreement that they get a certain percentage of our levy limit?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not arbitrary, that's just built in.
Correct.
All right, which we should know whenever we have referendums or anything, that not only are we paying the cost of the referendum, we're also increasing our budget by whatever percentage that is, in this case, over 100,000, which I don't think we knew at the time. I didn't.
Also, you can see the allocation offsets for the IT maintenance of subscription lines, the IT contracted service here, decreasing in this department of 31,000 for the maintenance and subscriptions. That's primarily the Office 365, and then the $30,000 that was allocated for contracted services to the police department. Any other questions with the professional department?
Mr. Wishow.
We have this conversation, seems like every year, go up to assessment services. Do we really need to go through assessment again this year? Or this is the lower level one, just a maintenance assessment, not the full-blown assessment? Is that what we're talking about here?
This is a full reevaluation. It
is?
Yes, but the decrease is due to the change in Act 12 from no more personal property taxes in the state.
Okay.
So Tyler lowered their contract since they always did that work for us. So this would have a full reevaluation.
Does the board really want to go through another full reevaluation? I think we ought to have a discussion anyway. Does it make sense to continue to do this year after year after year? I get questioned on that all the time. Why are we going through another reval?
Be paying in effect 5 times as much because it's every fifth year, or is it the same no matter how many? Is it just an annual fee no matter what?
The reevaluation. Did
you kill the mic already?
Yeah. The reevaluation is a set fee. So if you do not reevaluate, what that means is that if you wait and do it every 2 years or 3 years, the thought is that your assessments are, the people's assessments are going to go up that much higher. You know, this way, if we try to do it every year, granted, most people don't see it this way, but their assessments will be less and stick with the market. If the market were to drop, their assessments would drop immediately. Otherwise, they might be stuck at that higher level for 2 or 3 years or 5 years if you waited that long. City of Oshkosh waited 5 years, and their residents are very upset this year.
One of the benefits of doing it every year is you're going to see less wild swings. And so it'll be incremental. You could wait, and if you wait, but then it goes up, they're going to see essentially a double increase in 1 year. And so this ensures that it's incremental over the course of every single year.
And I understand that, but when the assessor was, when we were talking to the assessor at one point, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, I kind of facetiously said, well, when we have a big market crash and housing goes down, are you going to take our assessments down? He goes, well, no. So, so we're in a big bubble right now. So we're going to crash. When we go through a crash every 8 to 10 years, we're due for another crash, and it's coming soon. So next year, if we have a crash and he takes everything down, equally, I guess, I don't know. I really question why we're doing this because.
Yeah, but I think some of our assessments are still too low. The house next door to me, I looked it up in the book, it was assessed at 430, it sold for 550. Our assessments are still too low.
We are in a bubble right now. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
I don't know.
All right,
I think a lot of them are too low.
All right. I just thought I'd.
I don't
And
know,
that's
if we
still
really
making-
save any money. Do we save money by?
We
Yeah,
would
we'd
save,
save
we
them.
would save money. I'd have to check to see how long the current contract is good for. I think it's good through 2025. So I'd have to see if we could get out of doing it in 2025. But, you know, we can take a look at it for sure.
All right.
One other question. The audit service, it's really great, but we've used the same auditing firm for a number of years now, and I don't have anything against them. I think they do a fine job, but it's in our best interest to change every few years, and we've had these guys now for 6 or 7 years, maybe longer.
I've only used CLA,
Yeah.
and I've been here 14
And Kathy
years.
and I agreed to
9
push
years.
it off a few years because there's been a change in finance directors ever since Larry left. So I think this year we need to send this out for a bid. Or a quote, whatever.
Right, no, we could do an RFP for it.
We do need to. Thank you.
He's pushing the button faster than I am. So. Oh, he's doing it half the time. Good job. I go to reach it and it's already turned on.
Okay, so that concludes the general fund. Do you want to take a quick 5-minute break?
Stand adjourned.
I did look up the reevaluation assessment contract, and it currently runs through August of 2025. So it's for next year. The amount is $24,700 for the reevaluation portion. So in the future, if we wanted to skip a year, next year will be the time to do that, unless we wanted to take a look at the contract and if we can get out of this year, but it was a 3-year contract. Okay. Okay, moving on to the capital funds and the debt service area. The debt servicing is increasing for 2025, as I mentioned, for about $334,000. Also, just to let everyone know, according to state statutes, our debt limits cannot exceed 5% of the taxable property in the village, which our debt limit is actually 173,800,000, and our current general obligation debt at this point is $87,008,000. So we're at basically about 50% of our debt limit for the village. So that's why we have gotten good rates, and we still, through Moody's, we're a very highly rated village. Any other questions with the debt? 87 million. I did get a new schedule if anyone wanted the actual schedule of the debt. Right, yeah. Yeah, I just got one in the mail or an email from Harry today, so if you would like one, I have one.
You want a copy, Lee?
I printed one for you.
Development charges. Is that RCEDC or what?
No, that is actually a payment from We Energies for they make a $600,000 a year payment to the village for some of the land. The agreement goes back several years.
That's shared revenue on coal piles sitting on our property.
I see.
It's to offset and pay the 4 Mile Underpass project.
That's what it is?
Oh.
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Does that continue indefinitely, or is that a time limited?
There is a time limit on that. I believe it was spaced out long enough to offset all of the debt payments for the bridge project. So I want to say it was 20 years at the time, but I'm a little fuzzy on that.
Okay. I mean, it's a chunk to come out of our budget when we lose it. That's why I'm asking.
Correct.
Okay, moving on to the detail of the capital funds project. That has all the expected capital projects for 2025. This is where I had still left the items in there because when we prepared this budget, those resolutions hadn't gone through yet for the fire department, for the fit testing and the fire hose replacement, as well as the Axon body cams and squad cams for the police department. They're in with a zero cost. So I was banking that you guys were going to pass that resolution. So that's good. So the capital funds, as it stands now, we're looking to pay for that via $868,550 from tax levy. The bond for the debt of 1.2 million. Essentially what that bonding would do is we would pay for the road resurfacing of 900,000 and the $300,000 for the Mack dump truck with the plow in Public Works. We would bond for those two items.
Are we going with Mack or are we going with Volvo?
Volvo.
As part of the previous 2 years allocations, we went with Volvo because they were able to actually get us 2 trucks by the snow flying this year. However, they were honoring the price of a traditional Mack because they wanted to keep our business within that system. And moving forward, however, as was discussed and described to us, it's the same as GMC to Chevy. It's a higher end vehicle. It will cost us more down the road. The budgeted value for this year is for Mack, which is still significantly higher than it has been in the last 4 to 5 years. But if you were to see Volvo, it would be a bigger number than that.
The other large number is under administration is for the server replacement here in Village Hall. The storage devices in the server here are over 7 years old, and they are not being supported anymore from Cisco. So we definitely need to replace those in the upcoming year.
Mr. Wisha.
Is this amount based on a solid quote? And the reason I ask that is what the problem we had about 3 years ago when we put in 50,000 for the police server and it came in at well over 100.
Right, this is for, the quote is that I currently have is for 110,000 for equipment and, or 113,000 for equipment and $60,000 for labor.
Okay, and is this through our state contract?
Right, the equipment is brought through the state contract, and then OnTech would be doing the, the actual labor.
Okay, when it comes time to purchase the equipment, let's have a local contract, local business look at it as well. I'd like to
Okay.
have CCB look at
Sure.
it for sure. Because they came in far lower than what the state contract did last time. So,
Mhm.
thanks.
Sure. Engineering department capital is replacing a vehicle. Fire department, that basically is the second half of an ambulance, I believe, for the 178,000. Facilities, 2 floor scrubbers, 1 for each building. Public Works, we mentioned the road and the Mack truck doing the signage on the building that right now it's just a big gray building. Replacing a tractor mower, and then also to install the drop ceiling in the meeting and the break room. Right now they use that room for staff trainings and safety trainings, things like that. And there's no ceiling tiles, so it's, I guess, extremely difficult to hear anything.
Yeah.
Ryan, mostly for you, I think. When we painted the highway garage, we were also talked about painting all them other buildings that are looking pretty dismal. Is there anything going to happen with that anytime in the future?
We had requested the same contractor to give us numbers for the additional buildings. He did not come back to us. I don't know if he had a rough experience doing the building.
He did.
However, there were also additional discussions now that the police department was getting built and the fact that the demo of our police building was being considered, and then the space being requested by additional departments on utilizing some of those additional shacks, that I think that can be revisited, but that had not gone beyond the time that
Okay,
we had discussed that.
all right.
A question about the ones that say if approved, that's under the fire department and the police department. Have we approved any of those?
Yes,
Okay,
those are approved.
all of them?
Yes.
So we need to add on,
No, they have no impact in 2025. I pulled them
oh,
out of
because
this
we
budget.
paid them in 2020. Okay,
Right.
oh, okay, thanks.
Just to clarify, so they were approved at the committee of the whole. So they're going to come back to the board tomorrow for
Okay,
final approval, but
Okay.
they were approved 6-0 or 7-0
okay,
the last time.
I
we met.
remember that. Okay.
And so
We had enough?
in anticipation that they were likely to be approved,
Mhm.
they were not added to the budget. So those numbers
it.
have already been pulled out.
Got it. They're coming out of the 2024 budget.
Correct.
Okay.
The Parks Department, we're budgeting to move to phase 3 in the Crawford Park, which includes the pickleball courts, and the paving of the road and parking lot, I presume. Those are the highlights, right, Ryan?
Yeah, it would be the access road from the existing access road. So pretty much just south of the current parking lot on Crawford now, it would be an east-west road, a small service road that would get you to a parking lot that would be stationed between the hopefully completed sledding hill by the end of this season and the proposed pickleball courts, a half of the court sports that was part of the master plan. So that would include 8 pickleball courts, the fencing, the netting, the road, which is a little over 1,000 feet, and parking for 31 spaces, 2 ADA included within that 31, and some additional trails that would kind of connect to what we left off on this year.
And how does that relate to the park impact fee fund? I mean, is it coming out of that or what?
So the funding for this phase, 1.3 million, we would be looking to take that out of the general fund. So the current park impact fee balance at the end of last year was $492,000. In the 2024 budget, we're using $400,000 to do the work that they're doing right now with the sledding hill and everything they're doing to get ready for the road.
Okay, so that's going to basically use up that fund, and then this is out of, okay, thanks.
Holly, did you have something to
I
add?
just want to say that, and I think honestly that the board, I think, supports us at this point, but at Ryan's and Pete, and we've been doing a good job in the Parks Department, that this is our time in the budget to finally do this, to finally put some money into this park. Ryan, the village, you guys have been doing a great job of saving money with utilizing the building of our beautiful building out there to get everything level and drainage and the trails and the free sledding hill. We can get parking out there now. We can get these pickleball courts out there. We can get people into our parks. And if we don't do it now, this Crawford Park is never going to be the park that we want it to be. And I think it's time to keep people here in our village and at our parks. And I really think it's time that we spend some money. So, yeah. So I'm glad. I said we joked about it in the last couple of meetings and dollar amounts, and I said let's just do it, put it in the budget, and let's go for it because I think it's time we finally put some money into this park.
I do have an updated general fund sheet if anyone is interested. Currently, our general fund policy is that we have 30% of current year expenditures in reserve. Currently we're sitting at 42% of general fund expenditures in reserve in the general fund. And we actually were estimating to move about 1.3 million from current 2024 operations into the general fund at the end of this year. So we still will be in that area. So.
And Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, if we do it now, it could save us some money in the long run by moving stuff around now the right way with some of the grass and seeding and things like that, as opposed to seeding it and then having to rip it all back up and reseeding it.
So the current project that's being done was budgeted for, I think it was $900,000, and that was done because that was going to set the table for any future project that would be done. Everything had to be seeded, and it was going to really only include a trail and all stormwater management. That way, however the board in the future decided they wanted to fund this plan, it would at least look like an open space and not a weedy farm field for the long term. And then as we started to fund these specific projects, whether that be through funding of a special donor that drops off a huge check to the village like they tend to do, or just by budgeting like we are now, that we would be getting a lot of the legwork out now. I'm currently trying to get a number from the contractor doing the work today to get a quote for putting all of the stone gravel down now for the road. That would essentially be half of the step that would be doing next year if this was approved. That would be then something that would reduce the overall cost next year, but it's been a very difficult thing to get a good number on, and it would push us over the budget from this 2024's borrow. So I don't foresee it being as fruitful as I hoped it would be, but the overall project that we're currently doing does establish, like I said, it sets the table for all future projects. And for the board's information as well, I don't have the thing up on the screen, but this part of the project does not include anything connecting to Sunshine Lane. There is no through road. There is no emergency road connecting to their subdivision. There is simply an additional service road that would come off of our existing road right off that you come in to go to Village Hall. So instead of going north to the baseball diamonds, you would go take a right and then get yourself to the internal portion of the park. And these pickleball courts, while they may be loud, right, they're plastic paddles with plastic balls. It is in the most central part of the park and the furthest distance from all of the homes, almost in every single direction. So
and people can park for the sledding hill next winter and pickleball courts.
People tend to complain about the noise, but as well as just the access to Sunshine has been a hot topic. And just to forewarn you, when people see
For like
maybe
12
approved,
people. Yeah. But we're doing a buy a bench or donate a bench program and a donate a tree program where you can donate a tree or a bench on behalf of loved ones. And so we're putting money back into the park too. But we got to move forward in order to make it worth people doing these things too. Make people want to be in the park. So.
Mr. Wishaw.
There won't be any lights at the pickleball courts, will there?
there is no proposed lighting. This will be
Okay,
a
good.
still a dawn to dusk, except for the sledding hill. We'll have to consider our winter
Right,
allowance.
right.
You know, park being from sunset. Obviously, people are probably going to sled beyond.
Yeah,
You know,
as long as
4
there's
p.m.
no lights, that's one of the complaints I always used to get from the county is that if there's lights on a diamond or something at night, people get upset about the noise. And I can just say, tell them there's not gonna be any lights here, so don't worry about it. They can make noise during the day.
I can't, yeah, there is nothing proposed. I can't promise you how the pickleball folk will,
They're all
Up-
old geezers. They don't make much
they,
noise.
they assume
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
dinner starts at 4 at that point. I know they might be out of there, so.
I'm out.
I had to throw that in because I know he plays pickleball.
You're as old as I am. What the hell?
Is that like badminton for old people or what is it?
There, a lot of the local area parks also have lights, just, it may come up in the future that they may want it. It's not something that would be extremely out of the ordinary to add at a later date, but at this time it is not proposed.
Okay.
We just wanna put them in, get them in.
Yeah.
The, I'm gonna try to share the plan real quick, because then I feel like I'm,
I think we're off the subject.
maybe also that a little bit.
We're off the subject, which is budget.
The park was designed to maximize the parking lot space to utilize the existing infrastructure as long as possible and reduce the cost of additional. We're not adding anything that's going to take away from the existing stuff. We're trying to accommodate the existing as long as we can.
You can put this on a future agenda where the budget's tonight.
So we'll move on to the police department requests. So the capital for 2025, we have 4 police SUV squad replacements, the upfitting costs associated with those 4 squads, and then 3 new Toughbook computers for the squads. That would be our total budget at capital of $3.3 million. And as I mentioned before, that is down from previous years. Last year's was higher because we had a fire engine in for $824,000. And hopefully it will be delivered soon, right? Soon's a relative term. The budgets for the TIDs all will need to be updated yet for the October 8th, because the assessments were just recorded with the county. So I need to update the values, which will increase the revenues. Also, I need to add in a budget page for TID 6, because we will have, either, though we won't have any revenues for a little while, we will have expenditures going forward for legal and other items, fees associated with TID 6. Unless anyone has any questions on the TIDs. Okay.
Ren?
I'm looking at TID 1, the tax increment variance it's down $180,271. What happened with that?
The budget number for 2024 needs to be adjusted. That was too high. It should have been around $100,000.
I mean, did something that we thought was coming through
No.
not come through? Or
No,
what?
it was just an error in the formula
Huh.
for 2024. There's nothing happening in TID 1. The page,
It's on the map.
it's on the map there.
If you can visualize Highway K from the Meadows out to Highway V, that's TID 1.
I
12
remember.
Oaks at one point in time, yes.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Okay, then moving on to the Caledonia Memorial Park. Not much activity, of course, in the cemetery. Business is pretty dead there, right?
And we're dying to get in.
So the judgment was from the restitution amounts that we were collecting from the former parks supervisor. And now that he is out of prison, our restitution has stopped. moving on to the garbage and recycling. So both of these budgets have not seen an increase in 2 years in fees. So we are budgeting for an increase in recycling. And then also using about 50% of the current fund balances that are available in an attempt to keep those costs reasonable for the residents. Just going to flip back to Chris's memo. So the garbage collection on the residents' tax bill will be was $124. We're budgeting for a $5 increase there, up to $129, and it was last increased in 2023. Then the recycling charge, we'll keep that as the same at the same for $70. We currently are operating without a contract with Johns. Their contract expired last year, and that was one of the projects that Kathy was working on. So we should probably RFP those services just to, I know everyone's happy with the quality of service that we're getting from Johns, but just to make sure they sharpen their pencils.
They haven't really raised their rates, right?
Yes, their rates have gone up every year, 8%.
8%. I'm sorry, Fran, yes.
But I have a general comment going back to the TIDs, and that is that it shows in all of them what the incremental value is, but it doesn't show us what the net tax is because, for example, in TID 4, our most recent one, we're giving back 85% of the increment. So can you give us the net anticipated tax increment?
If we have an agreement where we, like, for example, in TID 4 for ProBio,
Right.
that is budgeted in there. I do need to, since now we have the assessment values, I'm able to go in and determine how much we're giving back. So on tomorrow's village board, there's a check request to CSL, which is the parent company of ProBio, for $72,000. They paid $145,000 in taxes, and we're returning 72.
Okay,
them.
yeah. If we can get that net thing, for example, also, well, TID 4, I guess that's academic because it hasn't happened yet. But I mean that Ashley Capital one.
Right, that won't happen for years.
Right. But if we can have for all the TIDs what the net additional tax anticipated is, that'd be helpful to me.
Right. Yeah, it'll show it in the expenses. In the developer, there's a line called developer.
In this summary, though?
Yeah, which one is it?
Developer payments, I see it.
Economic development services, like in TID 3.
Yeah, I see it.
So 87,000
Mhm.
is budgeted for 2025. And I have to, make sure I get those numbers correct since the
Okay.
assessments just came out.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Could you go back to capital projects, page 4? Maybe you mentioned this and I just missed it. Sale of property, 800,000. That is projected sale of station
12.
12?
Yes.
And we had it in last year's budget and we don't have it in this year's budget. So why
Correct.
is that?
Because, the sale of Station 12 is happening currently. That's the one that we currently have a tentative offer accepted on.
So we do have a tentative offer?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
I
It's
missed that.
650.
It's
What is it?
6:30.
6:30.
That's what I said. I thought it should have come to us.
That's what you meant,
Still
okay,
can.
all right. Oh. Okay,
Okay. Okay, that concludes the special revenue funds also, leaving us just the utilities to go through. And First one up is the water utility. Staffing for the utility department remains the same. Staff are divided based upon their operations area that they work in, be it water, sewer, or storm, based on their estimated usage. Tony, do you want to run through the highlights?
Sure, I can. So what you see on the title page or the reference page is that the staff breakdown, there's a total of 11 full-time employees, and they're actually broken down between the 3 districts. The public services director is split a third, and a third. Same with the GIS technician. The utility foreman is 3/8, so 3/8 in water, 3/8 in sewer, and a quarter in storm. The SCADA integrator and the administrative assistant are split 50-50 between sewer and water. And then the 6 field operators are again charged at 3/8, 3/8 in water, 3/8 in sewer, and a quarter in storm. As far as water goes, just some minor clarification and cleanup in regards to revenues. We kind of right-sized some of the revenues based on what we were experiencing in 2024. So we just kind of right-sized the residential service, the commercial, industrial, and then the public authorities. Overall, the dollar amount is about the same, but we, again, just right-sized them to make sure they came out of the correct categories. One of the decreases that we are kind of seeing right now is actually in the wholesale water charges. The utility district does sell wholesale water to Wind Point, and as of right now, they are kind of on track to be a little bit lower than what we kind of anticipated. Now, Wind Point does seem to have a lot of water main breaks, and maybe that'll change because they haven't spent a lot of money on their infrastructure, but it does seem that since the new public works guy over there has taken over, they have seemed to have tightened some things up in regards to their water loss. As far as salaries and benefits go, those were provided to us through Wayne, so the appropriate increases and decreases have been associated with those accounts. This one again does include that 10% increase, so there will be changes forthcoming to the new health insurance, with it being at a -5, at least currently proposed that way. Going forward with the capital improvement projects that we're looking at doing, the water doesn't exactly have a whole lot of capital improvement projects because the water district doesn't have a whole lot of money right now. We do need to replace water meters, so I kept those in the mix. We do need to replace a crane vehicle, so I kept that in there as well. Other than that, we are showing a little bit of a surplus for 2025, but at this point in time, that isn't. I'm very leery to put that towards debt service and do another $1.5 million project without having a rate case in the works, because rate cases unfortunately take anywhere from 9 months to a year. Any quick questions on water? Okay. For sewer, the same breakdown exists as I mentioned earlier as far as full-time employees go. For the revenue side of the sewer, at this point, this budget does not include any type of sewer increase at this point. We are waiting to hear from Ellers in regards to our cash flow study that we just kind of got underway. Typically every year we have done a rate increase. I had talked with John Cameron about a year ago now to find out, hey, can we hold off because our rates were kind of getting high really fast. He had felt, yes, we can hold it off for a little bit. And now we're to the point where we need to look at potentially having that cash flow analysis updated. It was previously done by Brian Della. We are no longer with Brian Della and PMA, so we have John Cameron and Harry doing the analysis for us. And that will allow us to know whether or not we can or should increase the rates and what that'll do going forward with the capital improvement projects that we have coming in the future. As far as capital improvement projects, the only thing I have in here at this point in time is for a portion of a Vector truck. Our Vector truck has been giving us a lot of issues recently, a lot of electrical issues, and we were looking to get that replaced between the sewer utility and the stormwater utility. And at this point, even this budget, as it stands today, we are actually in the negative of about $62,000. So we will need to do some type of an increase in revenues to make that up. Any questions about sewer? Okay. Moving on to stormwater. Stormwater is again the same breakdown as mentioned earlier. ERU fund, I've increased that just a little bit because there's always impervious surface increases going on. Again, salary information provided to us by Wayne. As far as the capital improvement side of things, we are looking to do the final touches on the Hoods Creek. And we are also looking at adding a contribution to the Turtle Creek Restoration Project. That is hopefully going to be the only portion of that project that the village needs to contribute to get that project off the ground. The grants that Root Pike Wind has been secured up to this point, and grants that they are looking to secure going forward. Unfortunately, the ones that are going forward pretty much need to, or it's more favorable if you have a stakeholder match or a stakeholder contribution. So we are looking at contributing a portion to that project to try to get that off the ground and completed. At this point in time, when we had an estimate done, it was about 1.2 million. So we would be roughly looking at about a fifth of that project going forward. Other than that, this budget for the stormwater utility is a balanced budget. And I just want to put one last stilling thought into your minds. The stormwater utility and the water utility do not have any effect on the general fund. The only tax levy that is captured from the village to the utility is through the sanitary district, and that is projected to fall off in approximately 2 years. If there's any questions, I can answer them. Otherwise, I guess I turn it back to you guys.
Nancy?
I just have one question that's just kind of general. So Root Pike Wind that you've done your granting through, they've now organized themselves as a formal land trust. Do you see that affecting any of your grant opportunities with them?
I don't think so. They still are very interested in doing the
Water?
MS4 permit, public outreach and requirements for those permits, and they do a really good job at doing that. And as far as doing this project, I would think that they kind of reached out to us to do it, so I would think
We'll cross our
we're still in
fingers.
good shape here.
We're good. Thanks, Tony.
Any other questions for the budget as presented?
So a couple different things we can do. I think, so we've gone through the entire budget here tonight. So we meet again tomorrow. We have a closed session item where we talk about some executive compensation. And so that information is not built into the budget, but Wayne and I have a full explanation as to how that could be accomplished and how that fits into the budget, if so approved, but that'll be its own independent discussion. And then we have some other modifications that we would recommend to this budget based on some of the changes in numbers, specifically as it relates to the increase in shared revenue and the decrease in health insurance costs. And so Wayne and I went over it. We did sit down with Todd and give him an opportunity to weigh in on some of these things as well. And so we would then be prepared to present that to you tomorrow as to what we believe is appropriate to do with that allocation of money. And then certainly tomorrow we should have a discussion. I know we had some of it tonight with regard to the request for positions. What I do encourage you to do is take a look at the memo that was sent that gives you the justification for the positions. And then I'm sure we'll come back and have a healthy discussion tomorrow. But before we have that discussion, I strongly encourage you to read the document that was provided to you. Other than that, that is all that we have for you tonight, unless you'd like to dive in. I don't know that we're fully prepared to do that. And if we do, that may take a little while. So my recommendation would be that we break for tonight and then pick this back up tomorrow.
You didn't want to go through the capital plan. Of course, I think it's pretty straightforward.
I think we did, for the most part,
Yeah.
go through all the capital items when Wayne went through the debt service portion.
Okay.
We didn't go through the individual sheets that
Yeah.
are with them.
But they're pretty straightforward, I
They're
think.
pretty straightforward. So we went through each item. If you have a question, certainly fire away and we'll answer it or turn it over to the department head that can best answer it. But they're pretty, I guess, standard requests that were pretty self-explanatory.
Right, and you had a request from Mr. Wishaw for some information. You'll have that by tomorrow, or?
I have it right now.
You have it now?
You have the levy worksheet as well? Sure. Yep. Yep.
So any other board members have anything you'd like to say, suggest, ask before we adjourn?
I want to add, and I failed to mention it at the beginning, but I wanted to thank Wayne for all of the work.
Yeah, that's a
that
lot of
he
work. Thank you, Wayne.
Put in, and all the department heads who gave us a reasonable budget and reasonable asks, and the time and effort that they've put in. So everyone, I think, is a pretty experienced crew. They've done this before, and so it was a pretty, I guess, smooth process all the way through. So thank you to everyone who contributed.
We're adjourned then. Thank you very much, everybody.